India's friendship with China might be one of the most important and also most risky decisions of this decade. Why? Because we don't yet know whether this move will benefit us more or hurt us more. Some people are celebrating it as a masterstroke. Others are calling it a disaster. But the truth lies somewhere in between. The fact is, this so-called friendship is not a bold choice, but a compulsion. With trade doors from the United States closing, India has no option but to redirect its trade somewhere else. That's the part the government won't tell you, because it might hurt their vote bank, and because the average voter doesn't want technical details, only headlines of good or bad. Let's first expose one big myth. Remember when people proudly said, "Don't buy Chinese products"? Apps like TikTok were banned, and many of us felt good that India was boycotting China. But here's the reality check. In 2020, India imported goods worth $60 billion from China. Last year, that number jumped to over $101 billion. Meanwhile, our exports to China fell from almost $20 billion in 2020 to just $14.5 billion last year. So in truth, our imports from China have increased, while our exports have decreased. That means our dependence on China is only getting deeper. And this is not because the government wants it. They actually tried to reduce it. But the Indian economy is structurally dependent on Chinese goods. Why? Because China produces most of the world's affordable industrial and consumer products, and India consumes them. So why are India and China suddenly finding common ground? The answer is tariffs. Both countries feel that the United States is bullying them with high tariffs. The US is the world's largest economy. China is the second, and India is rising fast. So when China says, "We'll support you against US tariffs," India doesn't have many options but to listen. On its own, India can't yet stand strong in the global market because our massive population is mostly unskilled and underemployed. That makes us dependent on global partnerships. Earlier, that partner was the United States. Now, increasingly, it looks like China. Yes, China supported Pakistan in the past. Yes, we had Galwan. But geopolitics works differently. There are no permanent friends or enemies, only permanent national interests. So, what can India gain from closer ties with China? 1. Trade opportunities. India can push China to import more of our goods like iron, pharma, cotton, and jute. Predictions say exports might grow from $14 billion to $25, $30 billion too. Rare earth materials. China controls 90% of the world's rare earth supply, which is essential for electric vehicles and batteries. Recently, China restricted exports to India. A friendship could reopen this access. 3. Reduce trade deficit. Currently, India has an $80.90 billion trade deficit with China. If China starts buying more from India, this gap could shrink. But let's be realistic. Even if exports to China double, they still won't replace the $85 billion worth of exports we send to the US. At best, it's a support system, not an alternative. And what about China? Why would it support India? Market access. India's 1.4 billion consumers are a perfect place for China to dump its cheap goods, especially as the US market closes to them. Global leverage. By partnering with India, China strengthens its position in BRICS and gains an ally against US pressure in forums like the G20 and WTO. Cheap labor. China's workforce has become more skilled and more expensive. India still has millions willing to work at lower wages. That makes India an attractive manufacturing base for Chinese companies through FDI, foreign direct investment. But India has restricted Chinese FDI approvals. Only about 12% of applications get cleared, because China has betrayed Indian trust in the past, whether through wars, border disputes, or data security concerns. So here's the hard truth. India-China friendship is not about brotherhood, and not even about trust. It's a temporary alignment of interests driven by global trade and pressure from the United States. China wants markets. India wants trade relief and access to rare earths. Both need each other. At least for now. The future will depend on how long this partnership can last before the next conflict or disagreement. In geopolitics, nothing is permanent except national interest. Right now, India's national interest demands some level of cooperation with China. That doesn't erase past betrayals, but it does shape present strategies. The big question remains: if one day China and the US clash directly, which side will India take? That choice will define not just trade, but India's role in the global order. This is not a story of friends and enemies. This is the story of survival and strategy.